Karen faked a pregnancy to trap me into a commitment. I never thought it would happen to me, but it did. Here's what happened. I never thought it would happen to me. I always thought that I was smarter than that, but I was wrong. It's hard to admit, but I was played by a gold digger. We'll call her Karen, and she faked a pregnancy to trap me into a commitment. It's been a few years now, but the memory of that experience still lingers in my mind. Let me start by setting the scene. It was a warm summer evening when I walked into my friend's party. I was feeling good, having had a successful day at work, and looking forward to catching up with some old acquaintances. As I walked into the crowded room, my eyes were immediately drawn to Karen. She was standing in the corner, chatting with a group of people, and I couldn't help but notice how beautiful she was. Her long blonde hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and her blue eyes sparkled as she laughed at something someone said. I made my way over to her and introduced myself. We started talking, and I was immediately struck by how smart and funny she was. We had a lot in common, and the conversation flowed easily between us. As the night went on, we found ourselves drawn to each other, and I knew that I wanted to get to know her better. Over the next few weeks, we went on several dates, exploring the city and discovering new restaurants and bars. We talked about our families, our careers, and our hopes for the future. I was impressed by Karen's drive and ambition, and I knew that she would be a great partner for me. Eventually, I asked Karen to be my girlfriend, and she said yes. We've been together ever since, and I'm grateful every day for the chance meeting that brought us together. Karen has enriched my life in so many ways, and I can't imagine where I'd be without her. When Karen and I first started dating, I knew immediately that she was someone special. She was kind, thoughtful, and always went out of her way to make me feel appreciated. Our time together felt perfect, and I couldn't help but think that I had hit the jackpot with her. I was thinking a lot about Karen and how much I enjoyed spending time with her. We had a lot in common and always had fun together. As I imagined our future together, I found myself daydreaming about proposing to her soon and starting a life together. I envisioned us traveling to new places, building a home, and creating memories that would last a lifetime. However, one day Karen showed me a pregnancy test, and while I was initially thrilled at the prospect of starting a family with her, I couldn't help but feel like something was off. I started thinking about all the responsibilities that came with having a child. I worried about whether I could provide for a family, if I was ready for the commitment, and if I was truly prepared for the changes that would come with being a parent. These thoughts consumed me, and I found myself constantly questioning whether I was making the right decision. Despite my doubts, I knew deep down that I loved Karen and wanted to build a life with her. So, I took a deep breath, pushed my fears aside, and embraced the journey ahead. Karen started acting differently, constantly worrying about how much money we would need to spend on the baby, and asking me about my job prospects. While I tried to reassure her that we would make it work, her behavior continued to worry me. As we discussed our plans for the future, I found myself wondering if we were truly on the same page or if there were deeper issues at play. Despite my concerns, I remained committed to Karen and to building a life together. We started attending parenting classes and preparing for the arrival of our child, and I hoped that our shared excitement would help to bridge any gaps between us. However, as the due date approached and Karen's anxiety continued to mount, I couldn't help but worry about what the future would hold for our little family. Would we be able to navigate the challenges of parenthood together, or would the strain of our differing perspectives tear us apart? From the moment I made the decision to commit to our relationship, I knew that it would take significant effort and dedication to make it work in the long run. I was determined to do everything in my power to ensure that we had a solid foundation to build upon. As time passed, Karen's behavior became increasingly erratic and unpredictable. She started asking me for money more frequently, even for things that seemed unnecessary. For example, she would ask for money to buy expensive baby clothes or furniture before we had even seen a doctor. She also started making extravagant purchases without consulting me, such as a new car that we couldn't afford. I started to feel like I was being taken advantage of, but I didn't want to believe that Karen was capable of such behavior. When I brought up my concerns, Karen became defensive and dismissive. I remember one conversation where I said, "I'm starting to worry about all of this spending. We need to be careful with our money." Karen replied, "Why are you being so cheap? This is our future we're talking about. You don't want our child to be deprived, do you?" I didn't know how to respond to that, so I just dropped the subject. These actions left me feeling uneasy and uncertain about our future together. Despite my reservations, I remained committed to doing what I could to support Karen and our growing family. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. One day, while I was at home, I overheard a conversation between Karen and her mother on our landline. It was a warm day, and I had just got back from work. As I was walking to the kitchen to get a drink, I heard Karen's voice coming from the phone. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I couldn't help but overhear what she was saying. "I can't believe he fell for it," Karen said to her mother on the phone. "I don't even know how I'm going to keep this up. I'm not really pregnant, but he's already talking about marriage in the future. I just need to keep him hooked until I can figure out my next move." My heart sank, and I felt sick to my stomach. I couldn't believe that the woman I thought I loved had lied to me about something so important. I didn't know what to do or say. I just stood there, frozen in disbelief, listening to Karen's conversation. As I listened to her words, I felt a range of emotions wash over me: anger, sadness, and betrayal. I couldn't understand why she would do something like this to me. I had trusted her completely and had let my guard down. I had thought that we were building a life together, but it was all a lie. I wanted to confront Karen on the spot, but I didn't know how to approach the situation. Part of me wanted to believe that there was some sort of misunderstanding, but deep down, I knew the truth. I felt like a fool for not seeing the warning signs earlier. I had ignored Karen's erratic behavior and her constant requests for money. I had thought that she was just excited about the baby, but now I knew the truth. When Karen came home, I confronted her about what I had heard. She denied it at first, but eventually she broke down and admitted the truth. "I can't believe you would do this to me," I said. "I'm sorry," Karen replied, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't know what else to do. I was desperate, and I thought that faking a pregnancy was the only way to get you to commit to me." "I trusted you completely," I said. "How could you lie to me like that?" "I know, and I'm sorry," Karen said. "I never meant to hurt you. I just needed money, and I thought that this was the only way to get it. Please forgive me." I shook my head. "I don't think I can. This changes everything. I don't know if I can ever trust you again." Karen hung her head. "I understand. I'll leave if that's what you want. I just want you to know that I'm sorry." And with that, Karen gathered her things and left. It was the last time I saw her. I was devastated. I felt like I had been used, and I couldn't believe that someone I cared about could do something like this to me. I ended the relationship and cut ties with Karen completely. It wasn't easy, but I knew that it was the right thing to do. It took me a long time to trust anyone again. I was always on guard, looking for signs of entitlement or gold digging. It's not a pleasant way to live, but I knew that I had to protect myself. Looking back, I realized that there were signs that I missed. Karen was always asking about my finances and what kind of car I drove. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but now I see that those were warning signs. If I can give any advice to others, it's to be careful when dating. Watch out for signs of entitlement or gold digging. Don't be blinded by love and ignore the warning signs. It's better to be safe than sorry. Thank you for sharing that with us, original poster. I think it's important to remember that we can't control other people, and the best thing we can do is take responsibility for ourselves and protect ourselves from others who may be out to hurt us. It's also really important to have a strong support network of friends and family around you. So if you're ever feeling like you need help or support, don't hesitate to reach out to them. My wife went out last night and didn't come home until this morning. Here's what happened. This is horrible. I'm furious right now. But I'm also depressed as hell. I know what I have to do. It's just killing me that I have to do it. It's fresh and it hurts a lot. My wife didn't come home last night. She went out with a couple of girlfriends, which is pretty normal for her. She's normally back around 2 a.m. on these nights, so I waited up. Around 2:30, I called to check in. She answered, and I could hear people in the background. She told me they went to a party but were leaving in a couple of minutes. She wasn't home by 3, so I texted. It delivered, but no reply. Around 4 a.m., I called again. It rang a couple of times before she sent me to voicemail. My wife finally came stumbling through the door at 6:47 a.m. this morning. I know the exact time because I was worried. She was wearing a dress she didn't leave the house in, with mesh leggings I've never seen either. The leggings had clearly been torn, and her makeup was smudged. My heart sank when I saw her. My immediate worry was that she had been assaulted. She only shook her head no when I asked her that. I asked her what she had been doing then. She only said that I knew what she had been doing, and that kind of confirmed what the voice in the back of my head had been screaming since she walked in. My wife cheated on me last night. I asked her who it was. She shrugged almost casually and said it was somebody they met at the club. She went back to his house and hooked up with him, then Ubered home. She then said she didn't want to fight and just wanted to sleep. So that's what she did. She's still asleep now and didn't even take a shower before passing out. Suffice to say, our relationship is over. We don't have any kids, and we rent, so it shouldn't be an extremely complicated process. I keep trying to reason myself out of it, pretending there might be something to salvage here. I've always maintained that cheating would be a red line for me, though. I think I need to stick to that now. The OP gave an update to the story the very next day. All right, Things have happened. I'm no longer at home. I left. I wasn't able to get the day off work today, though, so I'm writing this on my lunch now. It's been a struggle keeping myself together today, honestly. I've had to sneak off to the bathroom twice to cry. Shit's rough, dude. I'll post something more detailed later on because, holy fucking shit, there's a lot. I'm exhausted. I've only slept about 4 hours total since this all happened. Does anyone know if I should post the actual update in a new thread or just update the one I already made? It's gonna be a lot of text. Probably longer than the first one by a bit. Also, to the woman who felt compelled to send me a topless picture, thanks, but also, no thanks. My heart just isn't in that sort of thing right now. The OP left another update the following day. Me again, folks. I'm sorry I didn't get around to this sooner. I wasn't able to get the day off work yesterday because my boss kind of sucks. I was a complete mess at work yesterday, though, so I was allowed to take the rest of the week as vacation. Thankfully, I think I went through all of the stages of grief while my soon-to-be ex was sleeping. I wasn't expecting my post to get any attention at all. I just figured I needed to try to talk to someone about it because I was not in a good headspace. I made the post in the morning, and by noon she was still conked out in the bedroom. I had processed things a bit more, and I had a rough plan in my head that I was starting to set in motion. I made a short list of questions I wanted answers to, gathered up all my important documents, laptop, etc. Then I went into the bedroom and started packing myself a suitcase. I know a lot of folks wanted me to kick her out. I did consider it, but honestly, I'm not overly attached to this place. We just rent, and I'm in a lucky enough situation to be able to say that paying half the rent for a few months isn't going to financially end me. It'll sting a little bit, I won't lie. But I'll make it, and I feel like being around this place is only going to remind me of her anyway. I need to be looking forward, not back. She ended up waking up about halfway through me packing my suitcase. There was momentary confusion as she looked around the room, then she just started bawling. Maybe this is awful of me, but I didn't bother comforting her. I told her I had the screenshots of her Uber and text messages from her phone, and that plus her confirmation was enough that things between us were completely done. She didn't answer me, and just cried louder. I debated trying to continue the conversation, but I decided to just pack the rest of my suitcase and head back out to the living room until she came out. When she finally left the bedroom, she sat next to me on the couch and asked me if we could talk things through. I told her as calmly as possible that wasn't how things were going to work. I was going to ask questions. I wanted honest answers. She told me she'd be honest, so I proceeded. My voice was shaking the entire time. It was taking me everything to hold it together, but I kept going. Let me answer some questions for you guys. Was this the first time she had cheated? She started crying before she answered that, then told me no. She had cheated on me multiple times over the course of our relationship. It was, and I'm going to use her words exactly here, just sex, a way for me to let off steam. None of it ever meant anything. I wrote a comment shortly after making my post that all the love couldn't just fade away in one swoop. Well, it can. It hit me right then that I wasn't dealing with my wife. The person I was married to literally wasn't in the room. This was someone different. She refused to tell me exactly how many times she had cheated, just more than last night. Had she used protection? No hesitation from her before she nodded her head emphatically. She seemed surprised I'd even ask that. I'm still going to get tested just to be safe. I did some research into timing, and I'm going to look after it. Were her friends also cheating on their spouses? Yes, and no. I tried to get her to tell me which of her friends were cheating so I could get in contact with their spouses. She probably should have, because her refusal led to me messaging pretty much the romantic partner of every one of her girlfriends I could find on social media. There are a couple I don't know or couldn't find, but I did my part. Whoa, why did she do it? This was the answer that gutted me the most. I'm going to use her exact words again. I need to have sexual variety. I told her that it's not like our sex life is dull, she clarified. It's not the same as something new. I didn't even have a response to that one. I had expected something about me working too much or not supporting her emotionally. Nope. She just fucked other guys because she felt like it and wanted to have some fun. When I didn't respond, she started asking me about counseling and therapy. I reiterated that our relationship was over. I'd be leaving. What she did next disgusted me. My ex actually tried to have sex with me. She put her hands on me and started trying to take off my clothes. I felt like I wanted to vomit and pushed her away after a couple of seconds. She just kept telling me that she would figure out a way to fix it, that we would work through it together. I told her that there was no way, and she started bawling again. She went to the bathroom and locked herself inside. I was just sick of everything at that point. I called her mother and told her what was going on. The full story, too. The cheating, the questions I had asked, and the fact I was leaving. I've always had a good relationship with my ex's parents. They both decided to drive to town, which is about an hour for them. Once I knew someone was on the way, I'd just grab my things and left. Her waterworks in the bathroom were just annoying me because it felt hollow to me, especially given the answers to my questions. I ended up packing another bag before I left, and took all the things that I could think of that I felt sentimental attachment to, with me. I found a parking lot and sat in my car until I was able to get in contact with a buddy for a place to crash. I tried to take a nap, but I was running on way too much adrenaline. I knew when her parents had made it to the apartment because she started calling me. When I didn't answer those, she started texting me. She had gone from sad and crying to furious. Apparently I'm a fucking piece of shit for telling her mom everything. Whoops. I'm not sorry. I've received roughly 100 texts from her since leaving. They range from name-calling all the way to begging me to come back, to sending me pictures of the food she ate for some reason. I haven't responded to any of them. I feel like I said my piece before leaving, so that's where I'm at now. We didn't have joint finances, so that part was easy. I canceled all the subscriptions that go to my credit card just to be sure, and changed all my important passwords. I'm crashing on a friend's couch for the next bit, but I've got some feelers out to some short-term rental places until I can find something more permanent. I've got feelers out for a divorce attorney too. A coworker of mine had a recommendation, so barring something better, I'll probably go with them. I also wanted to say that I was shocked how supportive everyone was, and thank you for that. Truly, from the bottom of my heart. It isn't easy for me to talk about emotional things with people close to me. This was an invaluable venting place for me. Thank you all so much. OP gave the final update, and it's such a satisfying ending. Hey folks, I'm happy, I guess, to say that this will be the final update to what has been probably the most difficult chapter of my life. I've felt an immense amount of support from the community here from my initial 2 posts, so I wanted to give a short update. Bottom line, my ex and I both signed the final papers for our divorce this week. It feels kind of surreal to think about that still. About 2 weeks into everything, she got resistant. I cut her off entirely, and she refused to return my attorney's calls for a little while. Eventually, things got back on track. As for the infidelity itself, I don't have a ton more details to share with you. We did a short mediation, and by that time I didn't feel there was any remorse on her end. I've talked about that a lot with my therapist. I'm in therapy, by the way. It still hurts that someone who I thought loved me could have apparently cared about me so little, but I'm working through it. That's really all I've got to share. Thanks again, everybody, for your advice and support. It sounds like you've had some tough things happen in your life. I know that it must be hard to share this stuff with us, but it also sounds like you're making a lot of progress. I think that the key thing is to try not to beat yourself up about things that happened in the past. It's good that you want to make amends with people, and it's good that you want to move forward and do better. I think that if you keep working at it, then eventually everything will get easier for you. Am I the jerk for calling my aunt classless and exposing her biggest secret to the whole family? I, 25F, have always had a close relationship with my cousin, D, 22M. He faced some challenges growing up due to his parents' financial difficulties. Although he never went hungry, his family couldn't afford many luxuries. My uncle met his wife at a strip club where she worked as a dancer. Little did we know that this was her previous job. She left the industry when she got married. They own a business that D works for, which has had its ups and downs. However, the pandemic has been a blessing in disguise for them, and they are now making a lot of money. A few months ago, my cousin had a lavish wedding and a 2-month-long honeymoon. I was thrilled for him and proud of his achievements. My family background is solidly middle class. Although we didn't live extravagantly, we had some luxuries. However, my parents couldn't afford to pay for my college education, so I took out loans. I have been working for 2 years and still live with my parents while paying off the loans. Unfortunately, I couldn't pursue a master's degree because of financial constraints. During my birthday party, my cousin showed up without a gift. His wife joked about how they couldn't afford anything after spending a lot on their wedding. This didn't bother me, but my dad was visibly upset. When I asked him about it, he revealed that my mom secretly lent my college fund to my aunt and uncle to help save their business when I was 15 years old. They were supposed to repay the money to my mom as soon as they could, but they never did. Instead, they bought a second house, flew first class overseas twice, and paid for Dee's wedding and honeymoon. They argued that since Dee was working hard, he deserved it more than me because I had finished college. My dad was so annoyed that he decided to kick them out. In the heat of the moment, I said, "We both know she only thinks about herself and Dee. If she had any class, she wouldn't dress like she's still a stripper." I didn't realize that my family was standing behind me with lit candles ready to sing happy birthday. They heard everything, and my aunt left with a message from my mom, saying that we would never see that money again. I didn't mean to be rude and expose her secret. I was dealing with a lot of emotions and shock, and I still am. However, my family doesn't know why we were so angry, so they think I'm a jerk. I'm not sure if I'm excused either way. Am I the jerk? Update and answers. My cousin asked me to meet him alone this morning. It turned out he knew nothing about it at all. His mom has been keeping it quiet. He took this week to consult with a lawyer to figure out how much they owe. He has also recently uncovered 2 things. Firstly, the business has been evading tax, so he is very glad we didn't take legal action. He has started the process to come clean and pay that back. Secondly, she also borrowed money from my grandparents, a decent amount, which she never paid back. They have since passed on, so the lawyer said that amount will form part of the estate and will be owing between the 3 siblings. My cousin offered to sell his house to pay in full immediately if need be, but as an alternative, he and his lawyer have created a payment plan that would pay for my masters immediately. They will take over my loan repayments immediately, and once it is paid, they will continue paying my mom back monthly until the total is settled. We will obviously be going with the plan where he doesn't lose his home. Despite my cousin and his lawyer seeming fair, they have both advised me to find my own lawyer for my mom's interests, and they have offered to pay for that also. Because of the age of the loan and lack of effort to collect on my mom's side, they could legally contest it, or sumif it, but my cousin won't be doing that. My cousin apologized to me profusely and said that he wouldn't ask me to keep this secret from the family, but appreciates that I kept it to myself and hopes we can continue that as long as he upholds the agreement we make. My cousin is an amazing human, and we will work with him to try to make the impact of his mother's actions on his life be as little as possible while remaining fair. And the best part of all of this was that he planned on giving me my gift after my party when we were alone because he didn't want to steal my thunder. It was a gift card, and inside the envelope was a sonogram. I'm going to be a godmother soon, and I can't wait. The answers. The money was in a savings account that was going to be used for my college costs. It was in my mom's name, and so legally hers. She told my dad when I was applying for colleges, he's known for some time. I don't know if it affected their relationship and don't plan on asking. Her and my father have done little to get the money back because she is not coping well with stress due to being sick. My aunt was upset because I outed a 25-year-long lie, more so than people knowing her previous work. I have apologized to her for what I said via text and have left it at that. I have yet to hear back from her. I have also confronted my prejudice against sex workers privately. I won't deny I have judged her because of it. It's not something I am proud of. This blew up at a bad time because my dad had overheard that my aunt is so proud of my cousin for moving out and living on his own at 22. He just boiled over on my behalf. It's really interesting to hear about your experiences with your sister. It sounds like she had a really hard time when she was younger, and that must have been really difficult for you too. I think it's great that you've been able to support her in this way. Even though it must have been a lot of work for you, I'm sure she appreciates it too.